Hey, welcome back to Unwrap Sex, the bilingual podcast with sexological content. I want to welcome our new listeners from the United Kingdom, Denmark, Guatemala, Panama, and Nepal. I have no idea of how I'm getting to such nice countries, but I'm glad. So thank you. And a big thanks to my audio engineer for being understanding of my crazy week and being able to work this morning so that the episode could be available today for you. Thank you, Felix. I'll be honest with you, people, these past weeks have been hard for me. Just this week, I started with final projects and exams, and I just wanted to end already. Plus, work has consumed a lot of my time and energy, and on top of that, I got news that simply took away the rest of the attention and energy I had left. But not all has been bad. I recently got a new comment on one of my past YouTube videos before making this podcast, saying how helpful it was. So I thought it might be a good time to expose that same topic here so that it reaches more people who might need it. Some of you might have already watched the video and maybe others not, but I hope today's information is useful for you and that you share it with your friends. So let's get started. Have you ever felt sad, tearful, anxious, aggressive, agitated, or melancholic after sex, even if it was really good sex? If the answer is yes, do not worry. It is way more usual than you think. Having feelings of depression, anxiety, or irritability after sex or any form of physical intimacy, it is called postcoital dysphoria, also known as post-sex blues, and we will call it PCD. And this can last from a couple of minutes to several hours, leading the person to avoid or become abusive towards their sexual partner. But what's PCD like? Here's how interviewed people describe it. I don't want to be touched and I want to be left alone. I feel unsatisfied, annoyed, and very fidgety, and being emotionless and empty. A study in Britain showed that among 222 female university students, 32.9% have experienced it and 10% say they experienced it in the previous 4 weeks. To find out if men suffer from this too, an international survey was done, and it was found that the 41% of the 1,208 interviewed men have experienced it, and 20% felt it in the previous 4 weeks. So as you can see, almost half of the people interviewed had experienced at least once PCD. So it is way more common than you think. You ain't alone. Although experiencing PCD can be common, most of the people don't know it is an actual thing, and this can lead to feeling lonely or feeling there's something wrong with you or your relationship when it is not necessarily that way. This brings us to our next question. Why does it happen? What causes it? There's still more research to be done, but so far these are the most likely answers. The first one is that it is simply an hormonal shift. Due to the dramatic chemical changes that happen in our bodies during intercourse, it ain't a surprise that we do not always get a positive afterglow, and instead, negative emotions come to the surface once we hit the resolution phase. And here I want to quote sex therapist Denise Knowles. Having sex is a hugely intimate act, and an orgasm releases lots of wonderful feel-good bonding hormones. Those hormones drop following the peak of an orgasm, and as you separate from the closeness that brought it about, a sense of sadness can follow. By the way, those feel-good bonding hormones are endorphins, oxytocin, prolactin, and others. The second reason is that sex is triggering. Victims of sexual assault or any other traumatic experience related to sex can experience PCD to these past events, but also Sex can be a vulnerable act, and feeling like you're going faster or doing more than you can handle, and of course, also realizing you were under the effects of any substance can lead to PCD too. The third reason is that, well, it's related to health or life changing, meaning that PCD can be triggered by the worries of getting pregnant or STDs. For example, I was once with a guy that, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he had PCD, but once after sex, I was like chill because it was good sex, but then he was like all worried and saying over and over again, like, hey, but are you sure that like nothing is wrong with the condom, it's not broken, because I don't want to get pregnant, I cannot get pregnant right now, and stuff like that. So I was like, bro, chill, like everything's fine. So yeah, that could be an example. Anyway, any other reason, and a big reason actually, is social views. Here are some scenarios where you will be more likely to experience PCD. If in your social circles, sex is something viewed as wrong, impure, or dirty, even though you enjoy it, since you've internalized it as something you shouldn't have done or enjoyed, you will feel guilty, dirty, or ashamed. Social shame, even if it is in our head, may cause PCD. This applies to with your attitude towards sex. It's been seen that PCD is more frequent in casual relationships. Maybe you are doing something that is not in line with your values and needs. Maybe you are not totally comfortable with that, and it wouldn't be a surprise if you experience sadness, disappointed, or be angry at yourself. However, research has found too that people who have casual sex but are in line with their needs and values are not negatively affected. So it is not about casual sex, but the coherence between your actions and values and needs. PCD can be frequent in clandestine relationships too. A relationship that is hidden, but once again, this has to do with what you want and what you feel more comfortable with. So if you think your PCD is due to that, maybe you should reconsider that relationship. Experiencing PCD may depend on your relationship status. Those feelings of sadness, anxiety, or anger may be linked to a problem or issue you've been having with your partner. Speaking about partners, some people feel PCD because they are worried their partner were not really into the sex, and they are worried about performance and looks too. Now, you may be thinking, if PCD can be triggered by any of this, how can I know what's the cause? Introspection. Understand your feelings and experiences. Identify your beliefs, attitudes, expectations, needs, and values regarding sex. Keeping record of your feelings and discussing the situation with your partner is advisable too. Remember to be honest about your emotions without assigning blame to yourself or your partner. Anyway, here are some guiding questions based on Commander and Zimmerman recommendations. Was it before, during, and or after sex that you started feeling something distressing? Is this feeling familiar to anything you felt at another time in your life? Did your behavior work in alignment with your values? Are you satisfied with how you were treated? Is there anything you regret about the experience? Are you engaged in sex you don't want? Are you trying to use sex to get something different out of your relationship? Do you feel good about your partner? Are you enjoying the sex you have? Have you experienced sexual abuse or trauma in the past? If it persists for a longer time or you feel restless about it, formal therapy is way more helpful than this episode, to be honest. Overall, as we can see, postcoital dysphoria is under-recognized and under-researched. Anyone can experience it. Know that you are not alone is very common, and that this, amongst other stuff, contradicts the idea that males always experience sex as pleasurable, and myths about their resolution phase they suffer too. That will be all for today. I know this time was shorter, but it was necessary so that I didn't lose my mind. See, longer is not always better, if you know what I mean. Plus, we all love getting information as quickly as possible, so there's no excuse on your friends telling, like, it is too long, I don't have time, etc. Go and share it with them, please. Thanks for tuning in also. I appreciate it deeply. Remember, you can request topics by emailing to unwrapsex@gmail.com or DMing me on Instagram. My username is BossYogurtLight. I know it is a tricky and funny name, so you better click the link to it on our webpage. I wish you a sex life without PCD, and bis bald.